Today I'm going to tell a story of the fearless and the courageless. It's actually quite a simple story, but I feel compelled to tell it nonetheless. Once upon a time, there was an energy born into the matrix. And this energy was fearless in nature. It didn't mean that it lacked fear, but it didn't let the fear hinder it. It didn't let fear dictate how it existed in this matrix. Quickly, this energy discovered that the matrix could be shaped, it could be bent, it could be molded, it could be broken. You see, the fearless quickly discovered the grand illusion behind it all. And let's call the illusion the courageless, the emperor. You see, the fearless and the courageless literally had two ways of being. They were always together, but yet they couldn't understand how each other existed. The Empress, the fearless, the courageless, the matrix, or the illusion. You see, there's a thin line between love and hate. I'm sure we all know that. And it is so thin that one can seem to be the other, and the other could seem to be the one. The fearless knew that he was surrounded by illusions, or the Empress knew that she was surrounded by illusions. The courageless knew, or the emperor knew, that he was the illusion. But yet, the emperor didn't understand what it was to really give birth to new ideas, because the emperor never felt worthy to be able to create something anew. You see, the Empress always had hope and always had love. Love so great that the emperor became obsessed with the Empress, but yet still lacked the courage to embrace. You see, all the emperor knew how to do was control, how to oppress, and how to force. And all the Empress knew how to do was love infinitely and unconditionally. You see, the Empress always knew how to receive, because the Empress never sought after perfection, but acceptance. This is something that the emperor just could not understand. So the emperor created even greater illusions in order to make the empress succumb to the way that the emperor existed. Time and time again, there was a clash between the empress and the emperor. They both knew that there needed to be a change. Somehow, some way, if they were to stay together. But they were both set in their ways. The empress kept loving, no matter what, until the love that she had for herself started to fade. The fearless started to succumb to fear and started worrying that she would not be able to please the emperor and that the emperor would eventually leave. You see, the fearless started to become fear. The emperor quickly picked up on this because that was an emotion that the emperor could relate to. And so the emperor thought that this was love. And so the emperor started to be more embracing of the empress and creating even more illusions, because the emperor learned from the empress. So if I create even more illusions, I can induce even more fear, said the courageless. And for the emperor, this was love. The empress got excited because the emperor started spending even more time with the empress. It seemed like they started to share a common vision, a common goal. But the empress forgot that her love turned into fear, and that the empress fell more and more in love with this illusion. And so the emperor learned, wow, the more illusions I create, the more fear I create, the more fear I manifest in the empress. It seems the more that I get love, because it was the more that the empress feared. It was the more that the empress started to not feel worthy. And so the empress tried harder and harder to love, induce love in the emperor. And you see, this cycle kept going on and on. Neither one realized how toxic the relationship was. And then one day, when the empress was on her deathbed, when all of the self-love that she had for herself started to fade away, she started to change. And she started to try to paint her own illusions. And so the emperor quickly picked up on this as the energy changed. And both created more illusions, thinking that this is what love was supposed to be. The Empress thought that she had to sacrifice herself. And it's funny because the Emperor never thought that he would have to do the same. One day, the Empress woke up and realized that she could no longer recognize herself. The fearless became full of fear, and it hindered the Empress so much that the energy or emotion of love, her heart, became blocked, not just for herself, but for all. The Emperor quickly picked up on this. But then something strange was happening inside of the Emperor. You see, the Emperor felt manipulated by the Empress because he could feel something beating in his chest for the very first time. The Emperor could not understand this. So he tried the only thing that he really knew how to do, which was create illusions in order to entrap the Empress in fear. You see, the Emperor became obsessed with the Empress and thought that the Empress would never be able to wake up, thought that the Empress would also be eternally obsessed with the Emperor. But the Emperor was wrong. You see, the Emperor did not change quick enough for the Empress. And so the Empress had to choose herself because she knew how important her energy was to the Matrix. She knew how important her energy was to creation itself. And so she cut off the Emperor, not knowing that he was beginning to transition, that he was beginning to have this heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. She didn't know that the Emperor was discovering love. And so these two energies separated. And the Empress vowed to herself that she would never, ever, ever fall for the Emperor again. She decided that she was more important than this illusion. You see, the Emperor was studying the Empress the whole time, trying to figure out this mystery. Because illusions, fear, deception is all it knew. But then what was this feeling that the Emperor was feeling? Could this be true love? You see, when the Emperor started to awaken to this feeling, there were other energies of fear around it, other illusionists. And they became jealous of the Emperor. You see? They became jealous. These other illusions became jealous of the main male. How so? They were trying to figure out why this Emperor became different. What was this energy that he was projecting? They couldn't understand it. So what did they do? They cast even more illusions of deception and fear. Remember, the main male, he was just starting to go through the change, but it hadn't really taken hold yet. And so the emperor quickly got deceived by the other illusionists, because that felt like home. That felt like the truth. You see, the lie felt like the truth. It felt like, what he had always known. You see, the emperor started to feel as though he was starting to forget himself. The illusion was feeling like he started to forget himself. The matrix was feeling like he started to forget himself. Okay? And so it was kind of like a welcome home. Forget the empress. She wasn't good enough anyway with that love. That fake fear. But one thing that the empress did not count on and did not know, and that the other illusionists around the main male or the emperor did not know, was that the main male was secretly obsessed with the empress and followed her around. The empress could feel it, could feel this darkness kind of creeping in, but she refused to acknowledge it, as she had already made up her mind that she would never, ever, ever fall for that emperor again. The emperor was so obsessed with the empress that he started to try to control her opportunities. He started to try to sabotage her at every turn. He tried to close all doors that led away from him, so that the empress would have no choice but to succumb to him and return, begging for the lies, begging for the hatred, begging for the envy, begging for the competition, begging for the matrix, begging for the illusion. But you see, the empress started to come back to herself more and more. That divine flame, divine spark started to reignite again. Even though she kept experiencing tower after tower that the emperor tried to introduce to her life, actually did introduce to her life. Because remember, the emperor encased the empress in nothing but illusions and energies of lies and deception, in order to make the empress not feel worthy enough to be without him. You see, the empress started to remember her dream, why she wanted to exist in the first place, because she had a dream of a brave new world of light, one without fear, without oppression, without control, one filled with love, light, trust, harmony, peace, joy, enlightenment, and abundance, one filled with luxury, one filled with comfort. No matter what the emperor did, the empress would not sacrifice her love for herself again. And so the emperor started to cast even more illusions. And the empress just ignored them and focused on herself, focused on her dreams, focused on her vision, focused on the reason why she was there in the first place, focused on her sole purpose. You see, the Empress forgot that she was also surrounded by other love energies, like her ancestors, like the Most High God, like the angels, spirit guides, spirit animals. And the more time she spent on loving herself again, the more she remembered these connections and that she was never alone. And so she stopped feeling lonely and stopped checking in on the Emperor. Stop hoping that the Emperor would change. Stop hoping that the Emperor would come back. The Emperor energetically picked up on this because he was stalking the Empress anyway. He already had infiltrated her energy, and he had other energies around monitoring 24/7. And then every time the Emperor got back news, expecting that the Empress would just crumble, the Emperor was shocked that the Empress seemed to glow up. The Empress seemed to thrive in all of these illusions. It seemed like this Empress had this light, just this love that just could not be diminished. And so the Emperor started studying the Empress even more, until he himself experienced tower after tower, tower after tower, and became humble. Stop listening to the other illusions around him. Stop listening to the fear. And then the Emperor could feel that heartbeat again. Boom, 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 boom. Could this be the Emperor started to love himself? And started to find his courage to love himself without the need to oppress, to control, and to deceive others. Unfortunately, when the Emperor tried to reach out to the Empress could no longer see the Emperor. Every time the Emperor approached the Empress, somehow there would be something there. There was like this invisible barrier. And not only could the Emperor not see the Empress anymore, but all of the other illusionists that this main male, that this Emperor employed, also could no longer see the Empress. And this went on for a long time. And eventually the Emperor realized that he had to stop listening to these negative energies surrounding him. And so he went within, just as the Empress went within. And he discovered that he was also much more than he ever thought. He started to reinvent himself. He started preparing. He started learning how to love. The Matrix, the illusion, the Emperor, same energy. Changed himself completely based on all the notes that he had taken from the Empress. And he started to synchronize more and more with the Empress. And so he became the universe. Because he figured if he was so big, the Empress had no choice but to see him. He started sending out synchronicities 111, 222, 333, 444. And the Empress started to see or feel these synchronicities too, as her spirit team made sure that the Empress would notice the universe. But see, the Empress failed to realize that the universe was the Empress. Was the Emperor in disguise. And what the Empress also failed to realize was that the Emperor was the Empress. That the Empress was the universe. And the moral of this story is the Empress learned how to embrace all and maintain infinite, unconditional love for herself and for all. And the Emperor, the main male from the beginning, became the Empress. And the main female, the Empress, became the Emperor. They united once again and created a new matrix of infinite, unconditional love. Thank you.